everyone. Welcome to Art of the Week with Katya, episode 5. We are here outside the church of San Pantalon in Venice, as you can see from the sign. And I want to apologize to my viewers. I was not well last week and then things happened. This is a little late, but here we are, resuming with episode 5. So this church of San Pantalon here, which I am standing in front of right now, which we are going to go inside in a few moments, was built in, it is decided that it has been completed in 1686, and the inside of the church has a gigantic canvas on the ceiling. Very, very detailed painting on the ceiling, which is one of the only ones that still exists in Venice, and we're going to go inside and I'll tell you more about it.
As you can see, this piece truly is quite massive. It is 77, made up of 77 canvases. It is 25 meters wide and 50 meters long, painted by Antonio Fumiani. And in fact, they say that the canvas of this artwork is so incredibly big, Napoleon wanted to steal it when he got here from France, but he couldn't because the canvas is in fact so large that he didn't have any way, Napoleon had no way of transporting it. So it stayed in its place. This is what they say. Um, what we do know is that this piece of art, this type of art form, the idea of creating a canvas and covering the top of a church, the ceiling of a church, in a canvas that was painted like this, was actually a very Venetian thing. In fact, we know that the churches of San Luca, San Moise, San Giuseppe di Castello, San Iseppo in Venetian, and San Martino di Castello, San Martin in Venetian, all had canvases more or less like this in their ceilings. And for reasons over time, those canvases no longer exist. They're not there anymore. This particular canvas was commissioned by Don Giovanni Antonio Zampelli in 1686. Now, they say that Fumiani, the artist, most likely saw the building of the Church of San Pantalon in the 1680s. And we also know that Fumiani, he learned in Bologna. His master was in Bologna, but he spent most of his life from the 1660s onward in Venice, where he was born, creating various things. His master was Domenico dei Ambrogi in Bologna. Um, the thing about San Pantalon is that it is a single center nave church, as in many churches have a nave plus two aisles. This church does not. It has one nave and that's it. Moise is the same way. Many of the other churches that I mentioned are also built in the same fashion. And this is really important because if you're going to create a canvas that covers the entire ceiling, you have to know exactly what you're dealing with. And we know also that this project took roughly 21 years until 1707 to complete. But we also know that it probably took this long because Fumiani was in charge of all the decorations of the church, not just the entire ceiling of the church, but further artworks as well. Today, what's interesting is that San Pantalon is the only church in Venice of all the other churches that I mentioned. It's the only one that is still like this, that is still covered to this day in this canvas, as you saw earlier. The piece is described as an immense Baroque machine. Now, we can really get into why this is the case. Okay, so this is a horizontal piece. It is not three-dimensional. This is not three-dimensional. And yet, what Fumiani has done, which is really extraordinary, he has copied the exact architecture of the church and foreshortened it on a horizontal canvas that is not moving. not moving. It is absolutely stable. It is absolutely horizontal. And he has made it look as though this church continues on for, I don't know, at least another 200, 300 meters. Very, very, very tall into this temple-like arrangement. And not only that, but he's included all the life of the saint, San Pantalon, within the narrative of this. So it actually looks like the church building itself literally has these figures in it. It's a very amazing and alive thing, and it comes down on either side. Also, the figures do into the church space. So it really interacts with the church space. Now, this kind of ceiling painting, as we've seen, it used to be common during the Baroque era. It came originally actually from Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. Except, of course, as you can see from these models, it is much, it goes way beyond that because Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, the characters inhabit the space along with us, but they never transcend the space, and the painting is directly on the ceiling. This is a canvas that is fixed to the ceiling that is completely, as I've explained, completely horizontal. It is in no way bowed. It is in no way, it has no other way of being. It is cloth and it is taught in this fashion. And as a result, it has been posited that actually this is a little bit more Bernini-esque because the figures inhabit the space about as much as the architecture does. So we see this incredible architecture marvel that's pulling us into the center here. And then the figures are all around it. They're practically part of it, which is really quite extraordinary and very, very Baroque. But the thing is also is that the image of this canvas was very directly taken from Domenico de Ambrogio, from the teacher of Fumiani, who did an exact sketch that looks exactly like this, pretty much. It didn't have the life of San Pantalone, it had a scene of Mary on it, but he definitely took from that, and the darkness, the dark spaces, the outlining that he has is very much a Bolognese Baroque influence that he has, which is very interesting. Um, Many also say it's a lot like Sant'Ignazio in Rome, which the artist Andrea Pozzo did that ceiling. They actually did know each other, the two artists. So they're both painting the ceilings at the same time, more or less, because Fumiani knew Pozzo's brother. Um, so it is highly likely that the two of them did actually exchange ideas. So to say that this is exactly like Sant'Ignazio is a little complicated. I mean, something else that we also realize is that Fumiani was actually also very much interested in the conviviality of the people of Venice, and he borrows in this sense very much from Veronese. And Fumiani was a part of a society of artists in Venice who were trying to do a Veronese revival during the Baroque era. If you remember from my last episode, Veronese is very much situated at the end of the Venetian Renaissance. So this is the Venetian Baroque era, which is its own era, really. It's practically a century. It's more than a century, actually, after Veronese was painting his paintings, his massive paintings. And he really tried to revive this, but we should note that it is a century later, and as a result, that revival didn't happen exactly in the same way. And so I would bring our attention to the scene that is prioritized the most. So as I explained, the characters are also enacting the life of San Pantalon. And of course, the martyrdom of San Pantalon happens to take place in the scene directly above the altar here. So let's talk about this martyrdom scene and what it means, what happens. So this is a close-up of the martyrdom scene, and as we can see, there are definitely traces of Orientalism, the way that the wonderful author Edward Said would explain it. We can see the characters here, here, and here, who are actively participating in the martyrdom. You can see this man's tongs ready to hurt the saint. Now, these characters have absolutely nothing to do with the actual biblical story of the saint. The Roman soldiers around them do have to do with the story of the martyrdom of the saint. As Said tells us, the act of Orientalism is an act of othering from the Western perspective. And that is what we see here in this work of art. We have many, many other characters who are not engaged in activities such as this, but in this very important scene in the painting, we do see this happening, even though it is not part of the Bible. Now, where exactly these men come from is not very clear. It's believed that Pumiani used etches of men who may have been Persian, but again, there isn't, the etches themselves don't actually say where these men come from, or if they're stereotypes, or if they're actual drawings of portraits of people. And so as a result, it's not at all clear where these men exactly come from or who he's trying to paint. But we are following definitely the rules of Orientalism, which is the othering in the Western perspective. And in this way, this painting, unfortunately, also really shows Venetian perspective and Venetian politics of this era at this time.
So to finish up, as some final remarks, the piece really is a mixture of Venetian, Bolognese, Roman styles in the way that it was painted, but it truly is Venetian in the symbology that we see, in the people who are present, and the way that the artist was painting it. The movement that he was referring to was very specifically Venetian, and the fact this art form, as well as we have seen in this video, is also very Venetian. Thank you so much. See you next time.